It is that time. I'm so very excited to have Covenant Conversations. I was telling you guys earlier, that I've been gone, and I'm so happy to be back. And I needed some Covenant Conversations in my life this week, so I was like so praying, like, oh my gosh, I hope everything works out to be here. And I am here, and they are here, and I am so ready for the fantastic conversation that they have for us. I didn't share the topic, so I'm going to let them introduce the topic and themselves as well. So welcome to April edition of Covenant Conversations. Ladies, what's happening?
Not too much. Hey, SuiteLady. We're always so happy to be here. Thanks for having us again.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Today we are talking about stuff married people say. Specifically, stuff married people say to singles. So we're just going to get into it, and I wanted to talk about it because I think there are things that married people say to single people that are helpful, but there are also things that are not helpful that I think a lot of us can relate to. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we hear from married people that, that are helpful, that are not helpful, and we'd also love feedback, too.
Right. Before we begin, we just want to remind you that you can always talk to us on Facebook.com/CoveConvo.
Okay. It's Cove Convo.
C-O-V Convo.
C-O-V-E.
Awesome. I love it.
Conversation.
Yes, Covenant Conversation.
I was nervous about that and just jacked it all up.
It's okay. We still love you, Aniyah.
And it's the same on Twitter, C-O-V-E Convo.
It's because you're practicing Spanish, so you're saying Cove. It's not Cove. It's just Cove.
And I must say, a very gorgeous picture.
Oh, thank you.
Nice picture.
Yay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll go first, I guess. And we'll start with the negative. That way we can end on a positive note of stuff that married people say. And like Aniyah said, please talk to us on Facebook or Twitter if you have something to add, because we would love to hear what married people say to you guys. So my first one, my main one that just irritates me so much is when you express a desire to be married and somebody hits you with the all you need is God. I do not like that. Like, okay, yes, I love Jesus, and does that mean that I can't also want to get married, though? I mean, it just feels like, so I don't know, have you guys ever had anyone say that to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, it is, here's what I think about that. I think it is true that Jesus needs to be our number one. The first commandment is, you shall have no other gods before me. So I get that. I think a lot of women do, or a lot of people in general, put many things before God. But why is it that, if that's our true concern, then how come when someone says, I want to start a business, we don't say, oh, all you need is God, or, anything, any other goal in their life. I want to have children. All you need is God. We don't say that, but for whatever reason, when it comes to single people, that can be a person's default response is all you need is God. And so I just think that is not helpful because it suggests that someone having a desire in and of itself indicates that God is not their number one, and that's not true. It's like, but can I get a number two? Can I get a spouse? Jesus can't do everything for me. So
then why are you married?
Right.
How come all you need for it?
Exactly.
Does it, it's either implying that you don't have Jesus as a focus, and I guess maybe the same, that you're doing something wrong, which is probably one within the same, right?
Right.
I do think so.
Right.
That you must be doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
your focus may not be where it should be. They're trying to say. I feel like maybe.
I think it's very interesting, like, if you are praying and waiting for God to send it to you, that people kind of judge on their own timetables.
Right.
Yeah, which is frustrating.
True. And I think because of that, I know for me, I have, in my recent years, I don't talk very much about my desire to be married. Well, I do in the context of covenant conversations because we talk about relationships, but I don't, like in my general life, I don't talk about it much at all. It's to the point where it was some Women of Destiny event that we had where they were talking about, like, dreams that you buried, and I was just bawling after. Like, I could not get myself together because it had been so long since I had, like, acknowledged, yes, that's a desire, to someone, like, in the context of church, because I felt like in my early 20s, I kind of been so trained to not say it by getting shut down, or people saying, oh, you just need to wait, all you need is God, that I decided, okay, people think you're kind of not as sanctified or not as serious or not as spiritually mature when you voice this desire. So that kind of taught me not to voice it. And then inadvertently I kind of stuffed it away. And then here I am crying, bawling because, it came back to the surface. So I think that can be really damaging. We need to, just not send that message. And if we think that someone maybe has priorities out of order or something, there's got to be another way to disciple people to keep Jesus as number one rather than that being a response. So, anyway, I won't harp on that.
I mean, but then it also says, like, it's not healthy for, people to be alone in the Bible. It also, I feel like we were meant to be together. People were meant to desire companionship. So I feel like that's not fair of people to say all you need is God. And your Pastor Paul has preached on, needing a companion. Now, he may not mean it, in that way, but I still think it's relevant and it's useful.
That's true.
And yes, all you need is God, but I have some wants as well.
Right.
And I could see the focus aspect of it because I have actually lost focus getting into a relationship, but at the same time, some mentorship would have been better than just completely shutting that down. So that's what we need. Is some married folk to reach out to the single folk to, help us learn, because this is what we're aspiring to. So we need people that can mentor us in that.
To help our image of what marriage might be.
Yes.
Right. I think as when you're single, you're thinking of marriage as like a happy place, and you're ready to just walk down that aisle and just be happy and live happily ever after. But sometimes you do need them to give you the real about what marriage could possibly not be in your.
Absolutely.
So why do you think that they don't? Why don't you think that married people feel uncomfortable giving you the honest? Because, I feel like there is that judgment. I felt the judgment that I don't have, someone, and I'm like you, Alicia, I don't walk around going, where is my husband? It is what it is until it is. But within that judgment, if you're going to say you need God or this is what you need or you just need to wait, why not give us the good or and the bad or the challenging, or however you want to phrase it, or just say, what, marriage is wonderful, but this is, maybe if I waited, I would have learned this, so I want to give you this advice that while you're waiting, hey, think about this, focus on this, pray about this, change this about your, help us to be even more prepared. It seems like there's like some kind of shame in saying that their situations are not necessarily perfect.
Agreed.
And I don't know why.
Because it definitely helps to know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is that pressure that people feel to portray that, not that they have it all together, but I think marriage is an area where you don't want to reveal that you don't have it together, because I think that's a place where you could feel very vulnerable because it's something that goes so deep. So I don't know. I think you said the right word. I think you said there's shame attached to people sometimes acknowledging that, because what if they're like a, servant in the church or visible in church, but then they're letting the single person know they're having marriage issues. I think there's a stigma to that, and so I think it's easier sometimes to just resort to those blanket answers, like, oh, just wait, or just, But I think you proposed a really good way to rephrase that, and so I'm hoping that if there's married people tuning in, that, they would consider phrasing it the way you just did, SuiteLady, because I think you said it really well. Like, oh, well, that's a good thing, but consider this, or while you're waiting, pray about this. That would be really helpful.
Absolutely, because we can see. I mean, we want to, as single people, we want to be married, and we want God to, bless our unions. But we can see that it's not perfect, whether it's marriage, whether it's motherhood, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder. That there's going to be some awesomely wonderful things about whatever your desire is, but there is going to be challenges.
Right.
With whatever, your desire is, and why there's the lack of honesty about that.
Denise had another thing that bothers her about marriage.
I do.
Or not marriage, but things that married people say. Let me clear that up.
I'm not there yet. So one of the things that, I guess it's either taken as a positive thing or a negative thing, depending on who's saying it, and I've had it said to me several times. So one of those things that married people say is just enjoy being single. And I've had it come from that aspect of, I'm really not that happy married, and if I could be single again, that's what I would do. But I've also had it as a reminder to enjoy the season that you're in. And for me, that's good, because sometimes I'm, wishing for my dream husband, and maybe being in a little bit of a funk about, not being married, so I'm not enjoying where I'm at. And actually where I'm at is really good. So I do enjoy my life if that's, if I'm not focusing on what I'm missing.
Do you wish that married people would not say enjoy being single, or that they would just be more detailed in how you should be enjoying being single?
I would say maybe more detailed.
Okay.
And to me, it's a little bit sad when it comes from that place of
discontentment with marriage.
They're just unhappy in their situation, and but I feel like everybody wants what they don't have. Tall people want to be short. Short people want to be tall, and So maybe if it was just more, I think it would be more helpful, just as a reminder, to be happy where I'm at.
I wonder what they would say. Enjoy the fact that, when I think about my singleness, I enjoy the fact that if I want to set a goal, I don't have to run it by somebody.
With anybody.
Yes, if I decide, this is, like, right now we've been talking about in our little friendship group, like, our financial goals. Like, I don't have to check with anybody to make sure this person's good with that. I can just say, I'm switching up the budget, this is what it's going to be, because this is where I want to be next year, this time. So there's no one to, things like that. So I guess that could be an example of a suggestion, like if a married person. Yes, no?
Yeah,
okay.
If they want to enjoy making your own decisions.
Or freedom. Maybe the word is freedom.
I think a lot of it just is in the tone that they use it in.
Okay.
And it either comes from that regretful place, or it's a more positive, upbeat, like, hey, you got all this going on for you right now, and, it's going to come, but until then, there's so much that you'd be missing if you are focused on what you do not have at the time.
Okay.
I don't think I've heard it in a positive way.
Oh, okay.
I think anytime I've heard it, it's been like, girl, enjoy being single.
Yeah.
Like, okay, honey, we need to lay hands.
Oh, okay, yes, with tone. That's a good one.
And so I guess, are we calling it annoyance or quirk for people who are married, and when they say certain things, when married people call marriage work, I think that term is so loaded, and I think it brings it way down. I think it basically says, girl, you don't want this, and you don't want these problems. just don't even do it. And I think that when I go to work, I mean, I know people have jobs that they enjoy, but when I go to work, I don't feel all excited about it. Like, I get up thinking, like, do I really need this job, or can I quit today? Like, I don't want to think of marriage in that light. Right. I want to think of marriage. I know that it's not going to be perfect, and I know that everything is not going to go smoothly all the time, but I would like to think of it as, you know, a partnership. I'm not sure. Just, I'd like to think of it in a different way than work. So if they could stop using the term work, that might work better for me.
Interesting.
I think saying it takes work is very different from saying it is work.
Yes. Okay.
Or that.
Because this is what I suspect. I suspect that there's married people listening in going, that's nice that you feel like that, but it is work.
That's cool, but it's like,
regardless of what you want.
It can be trying. It can be difficult. There can be tough times, but I'm not going to straight up just be like, oh, marriage is work, honey, and you need to get ready to roll up your sleeves, and no.
I think Denise gave a good suggestion of rephrasing that. So marriage takes work versus marriage is work. Because that's interesting. As a single person, I've heard married people say that, but I never took it in a negative way, personally, just for me. For me, I took it as, okay, you're equipping me for the reality, so I'm not shocked when I get in it. But I think that's because when I hear people say that, I assume they mean it takes work. But certainly no one would want to sign up for it if it's just only work and no pleasure. I wouldn't.
That turned me all the way off. I was like, you know what? For a while, I mean, I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want anything. I was like, no, thank you. If it's going to be that hard, then why?
This is a brief intermission, everyone. Yvette just walked in.
Hi, Yvette.
Hello.
Let's announce the layperson.
That's okay, girl.
I think of it as, if I won the lottery, I would probably quit work. I feel like a lot of people would also probably quit marriage if they won the lottery, too.
That's sad. Oh, I wish I would get married to someone. Win the lottery and be like, bye, Alicia.
No,
absolutely.
Bye, Alicia.
Absolutely not. Okay, I have another one. I cannot stand when married people say, oh, it'll happen as soon as you stop looking.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot stand that one. Because, y'all, what is your Bible backing for that formula?
Right.
Why do you guys say that? Okay, that's just me being
that's not just
venting.
I find that when I'm not looking for a relationship, that's when they come.
With most of this stuff, it's really the tone that the person is using too, right?
Yeah, sometimes. You know what? Here's what I'll be more specific then. Here's why I don't like that once you stop looking, it'll happen. Because that's not always the case. I have friends that are traveling the world, okay? They're not sitting around fighting for a man. They didn't find a man while they were traveling the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's not I don't like the fact that married people come up with formulas. Like, if you do this formula, that's when it's going to happen. And it must not have happened because you've been looking. So if you stop looking, then it'll happen for you. I just don't think that that's true. And on the flip side, I know people who have said, you know what, I don't want to be single. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to step outside the box. I'm going to go. In fact, there's a couple at our church that she straight up encouraged me. She was like, I went on Match.com and I met my husband, and they both go to the church now. So she was looking, and it happened. So I just don't think it's accurate. That's mainly my thing. Maybe they mean it I think maybe I'm taking it more literally than they think. Maybe they mean it like in what's that saying, a watched pot never boils?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they mean.
Yeah, don't be so conscious.
Yeah. But it's still not true, in my opinion.
I think sometimes, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I think sometimes it feels to me like some people are trying to comfort you, like say your puppy died, and they're like, oh, it's going to be okay. In time, you'll forget that puppy, and you'll get a new puppy, or the new puppy will come around. Like, I know that sounds really morbid, but at any rate, like, just trying to comfort you if you're in pain, or if you're sad or something like that. So maybe they think, oh, this person is not married, they must be in pain. Let me say something that will kind of console them. So they mean it from a good place.
Okay.
But it's not accurate.
Okay.
And it might not be the help that you need at that time.
That's helpful, Yvette. Okay, so you know what? I'll just, next time someone says that, I mean, I hope you guys don't keep saying that to single people. But if someone does, I'll think that their intention is good. I think that's just my personality.
Some people,
possibly. Yes. I think I'm just looking for accurate statements. But okay, that helps me. Thank you.
I will say what I do notice in my own life, and why I can agree with that statement, is when I'm more focused on that, maybe I carry myself differently, because when I get real satisfied with where I'm at and I'm not even thinking about that, the guys just show up. They're not always exactly what I'm looking for now, but it's like, for me, it's either like a flood or a drought. There's no nice medium. So, and what I notice is they just start coming when I'm very joyful and I'm very happy where I'm at.
Okay, right.
And yes, exactly, and I'm okay by myself, and they try to come ruin it. So
okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But see, I feel like I live my whole life like that. I mean, I get in my funks, but I feel like I'm 32. I can't be always sad that I'm single. So I've learned how to be cool with it. So maybe it's just, I feel like when they say that, I need to be doing something else. But you're right. I mean, I've gotten boyfriends when I wasn't looking, but still, that's a boyfriend. That's not a husband. That's not a ring.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. I'll let it go, y'all.
That almost suggests that you are looking and that you're on the hunt and on the prowl.
Yeah.
So.
And you'd have a different kind of conversation with people.
Right. Yeah. True.
Do they usually say it when you're talking to them, or do they bring it up themselves, like, ooh, girl, you look like you looking?
Oh, no, because I know I don't look like that.
Right. I know you don't. But do you feel like it's just something that they volunteer, like?
I think it happens in those, like, small talk conversations, oh, so are you seeing anybody?
Right.
And then I'm like, no. Oh, well, you know it happens when you're not looking. You know, it's like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well.
One thing that I'm not really fond of is when people who are married say, so you must not want to be married and have a family, right? Because you're not married and having a family right now. So, like, obviously you don't want a family, right? So you should really think about that. Obviously, if you're single, then you don't want to be married, because I'm married, and, and I know they don't mean it maliciously, but it's kind of that, oh, you've forgotten your single days. You just got married last week, and now you're like, oh, obviously you must not want to be married.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing to make sure that you can get married? What are you doing to find somebody? And, if you were really, really searching and really open and praying about it, then obviously you would be with somebody and God would bring that to you, but obviously you're not doing the work that you need to do, blah, blah, blah. So that is annoying to me.
I agree.
Again, that's the formula.
Right. Yeah, and I wish that people understood that I think 2016 is just a different beast. We live in a different day. So, I mean, I'm blessed. I love that my dad understands this. Like, sometimes if, I'll talk about, relationship stuff with my parents, and my dad just sometimes shakes my head, and he's like, man, I feel for you women today, because he'll say, back in my day, he'll say, like, that when he was in high school, that when guys reached, like, senior year of high school, they used to talk with each other about who they want to marry. But it's like now, I wish I would hear some 18-year-olds talking about, it's just not that conversation.
No, I can't even wrap my head around
that
conversation.
Yeah, 25-year-olds don't want to have it in a lot of cases. Sometimes by 30, then you're starting to hear men say, I want to settle down. But you just, in general, marriage is almost like the word that, it's like the buzzword that you don't want to say to a man, because it's like, I don't want, So,
run away from it.
Yeah, so sometimes I just wish that people who are already married understood that we live in a very different cultural climate. Yeah. We live in a climate where, people are, people always get upset, when you point these sorts of things out. Not that people weren't shacking, like in the generation above us, but it's so much more accepted now that marriage is becoming, antiquated in the eyes of a lot of people. So it's just a very, very different climate to be, single in. So it's not necessarily the case that someone who's single is single because they don't want to be. It's just, it's a different world.
Exactly, and I think it goes back to what you were saying. I was listening earlier. Because you're not going to keep yourself in a box and say, oh, I'm just miserable because I'm not married. You're going to live your life. So you might not talk about it, like, oh,
right.
gosh, you guys, I'm still single, right? Like, man, da-da-da-da. You're not talking like that anymore because you don't want that to be your main focus.
Mm-hmm.
You want to enjoy your life. And because of that, I think that prompts people, I know in my world, in my circle, to say stuff like that. Like, oh, you must not want to get married because they don't hear me talking about it all the time and all that. So, and they don't understand the climate. They don't understand the situation of dating right now. So.
Right. And you might go through something where you're dating and you don't want your relationship out there because sometimes I think certain people think like, oh, Alicia, you just must not have dated in like years and years. Like, who knows? Do not get that one twisted. Right? I just don't tell you. No.
Actually, recently, someone said to me that I got the you must not be interested in getting married, or you don't, I don't act as if it's important. That's the most recent thing. But I would say what you guys haven't mentioned, but it's still all in the same. I get I must be doing something wrong, that I'm carrying myself wrong, I'm dressing wrong, I'm doing something, it's not the right shade of lipstick, it's too many curls, something that I'm doing that, the man that God has for me is going to say, you know what, her lipstick is just too red. I'm not gonna ask her out on a date. That kind of thing. That implies that there's something wrong with me, because if I was okay, I would be married as if there's just an abundance of men and I have some blinders on and I'm just not paying attention. But at the same time, it's wait, don't choose yourself. Let God send you someone. And then, okay, well, now you're at this age and God hasn't sent you someone, so there must be something wrong with you.
Right.
And then it becomes like this pity thing. And that's very, very difficult. So then it becomes the assumptions that I'm doing something wrong, or I'm a homewrecker. It just has to be like some major flaw within me versus, maybe it's just not time. And I think that that's the conclusion I've come to, because I'm in my 40s and I've never married, and I feel like it's just not my time. It's taken me quite a bit of time to get to that place of peace. But I feel like there's just some things that I have to do before it happens, and I'm okay with that possibility. But I tend to shy away from married women, or even, and this is sad to say at my age, but being in my 40s, that as I see my friends begin to get in a serious relationship where you can kind of tell that, the relationship could be leading to marriage, I start to kind of back away. Because that mindset is going to, sometimes it starts to shift. And they go from being in the same boat with the same challenges as a single person, and then once they are chosen, then they totally forget about being single, and the judgments that they complained about are the judgments that they perpetuate.
Ooh, that's profound. That's on the head.
It's way too easy. So I'll say this, that whenever my husband shows up, I'm going to be honest and real. I have nothing to be ashamed about, but I think that women need to understand the place that other women are in. And I wish someone would have told me. So I'll say this to you guys, because I know all you guys are younger. If you have friends, that you remain friends single and remain friends married, you truly have a friend, because sometimes you don't know who that woman really is until she yearns for a husband and is chosen.
Wow.
Like when that singleness becomes uncomfortable and that yearn becomes uncomfortable, and when she is chosen, who she becomes at that particular time. And those are the women that, we're all in the same boat going, okay, we're waiting, we're praying. And then once they get married or once they get the engagement ring, then their whole perspective changes and they become what they complained about. I wish I knew that, because I think it would have made my singleness a little bit easier. Because for me, there has been, there is the group of people that are just going to judge no matter what. Just, you have to live with it. But for me, the most painful judgment are the ones that we were all in the same boat. So I'm like the last, of my group of friends to be married. And, I found myself saying, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here. I know you're married. I know you're busy. But I was the shoulder that you cried on. And, I talked you through those bad relationships and supported you all the way down the aisle to get married. But don't, forget that I'm here. And that happened more times than I would probably like to admit that they changed, unfortunately.
You just dropped so much knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
That was deep.
Yeah, and no one ever told me that, so I think that I know that at this point, being in my later 40s and getting married, I'm past that point in my life where I feel like I need to keep up appearances and images, and I've gone through, some wonderful women in my life who have encouraged me through my singleness, as well as the ones that have judged me. I've been there, done that. So I think that when I share with young women, I want to be honest about this is what you're going to deal with being married, and not just because I waited so long, but that I'm past, keeping up that image that if I tell you, what, I really didn't enjoy my singleness because I was preoccupied with getting married. And now that you're married, you can't do X, Y, or Z, like Alicia said earlier. Someone said earlier, you got to check in. You can't make these goals. You can't. Like, nobody is saying that completely without it feeling as if it's some kind of dig. And it's not. I say that to women who are, who want children. Live your life and do everything you want to do, because the worst thing is to be a mother and you still want to go hang out all the time, and to be a mom and, you're trying to climb the career ladder. You want to live life, and when you have your children, not to say that you can't have a career and you can't, do lots of things, because we are super women and we can do everything, but that when you have your children, you want that to be your focus. You don't want to be distracted with other things. But, all you hear some say, oh, don't have kids, or wait for kids, or, oh, kids are committed, or you're going to be tied down, and they make it seem like it's a burden. Being a mother is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But you want that to be your focus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not
absolutely.
Definitely.
I think that's what Denise was talking about. It would be better if they just gave a detail, like how can you be enjoying your life. So I think you just hit that on the head.
Absolutely. So I was listening to you guys, and it just brought back so many memories, because in my 20s, I was like, oh, I'd be married in my 30s. And then when I got to my 30s, I was like, oh, yeah, I'd be married in my 40s. And then by the time I got to my 40s, I'm like, well, you know what? I still got to be happy with this life. If he arrives or if he doesn't, I have to be okay. And, of course, I did get to that point where I am okay. But what is so interesting is that when I became okay, then it was no longer that I was doing something wrong. It became the most recent thing is, well, you're not really trying. Evidently, you don't really want it. And I'm like, okay, so would you feel better if I was walking around, just feeling like I need to wear sunglasses 24 hours a day, because I don't have a husband? Like, what am I supposed to do if he's not here? But I think that I don't think it's enough examples of being okay with whatever God has for you. Like right now, in this moment, I would love to be married. I would just love to be married, but I'm not. So what do I do?
And you want those examples. Do you think there should be examples from married people who live their life fully as a single, or just from other single people who are living their life fully single?
You know what? Probably a little bit of both, but I think that I have learned now, and I've learned now, and it's taken a lot of time to get that sometimes married people are saying things out of the goodness of their hearts.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are speaking out of their own issues. If someone is saying it's a lot of work, it's because maybe they didn't get married for the right reasons, or maybe they didn't have the counseling, or maybe they didn't date long enough. So, they're giving their experience based on, I was in such a hurry, we probably could have been engaged a little bit longer or something. Because I think that some married women feel like if they give you those things, then there's probably an opening for you to get their husband.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? That there's, like, you just gave an in where someone could come in and take your husband or whatever, so you can't be honest about that. But I think that you can share the truth and it not be an opening to destroy. And I'll just give a general example, and if my daughter's listening, she's going to kill me. But love my daughter with all my heart, body, mind, soul, and spirit. But there was a period of time where I didn't like her very much. She was a teenager, and she was just driving me bananas. Mm-hmm. But that's not saying anything negative. That's just what it was at that time. And a lot of mothers go through that period with their daughters. And you get past that period. But that doesn't mean that the relationship is weak. It's just a change. Teenagers are strange. They go through a strange period, whether it's boys, girls, they just go through strange periods. It's just a part of growing up. But it doesn't mean that you're saying anything negative or that the relationship is not solid. But the next mom needs to know that about age 11 or 12, their daughter might get really weird. Instead of allowing her, for a mother to go, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on with my little girl. She just completely changed, and then get it. And then someone goes, oh, well, yeah, that's what you're going to go through. Instead of just saying, you know what, you're going to have a really good relationship. These are the things that maybe you need to work on. The relationship with your daughter while she's very, very young, she's going to get to a period where she's going to be more concerned with what the kids say at school than what is said to her at home. That's just reality. So give the heads up so that the next generation does a better job. It makes smarter and wiser decisions instead of, these ridiculous blanket statements that, to me, don't have a lot of validity. I hope I'm not mumbling if what I'm saying makes sense.
No, I agree. SuiteLady, I was just thinking about what you were saying and about this general conversation about, guidance. Guidance when, it's a married person and them giving guidance, like, hey, it's more than just, oh, you need to find a husband. Like, here's some things that I did while I was single. But in my circles, there are so many of married women that actually can't give that kind of guidance because they went through the same kind of a struggle in finding someone, and a number of them didn't enjoy their single season and kind of felt like a lifeboat when they got married, and so they can't really give that kind of like, hey, this is how you enjoy the season you're in. They can't give you that, so all they really can give is, girl, you got to get married. You got to do it. You got to do it. Figure out a way to find somebody, but I'm really unhappy right now. But still, you need to find a way to get somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard for some people to give that guidance because they didn't experience that healthy part of being single themselves.
And I think that's kind of goes back to what we were talking about last month when we were talking about accountability partners. I believe you have to find the right people to speak into your life. So I'll just share this real quick as a positive side, because I know we've...
Hold on, Alicia.
Oh, yes.
Hold on 1 second. You're listening to 98.3 FM WRLR Round Lake Heights, Illinois. Okay. Good work. Go ahead.
So, and I know we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, but I did want to share something positive. I can say I have so many married women in my life. Well, I don't want to say so many. I feel like it's a lot, just compared to, what some people have experienced, who have poured into my life, and married couples, whether that's, when I was in a relationship and I went to them for advice or they shared certain things. Wakima, who's part of Covenant Conversations, she's on vacation right now, but she is a great example of a person who is a wonderful friend as a married person. I mean, she is married. She has 2 toddlers, and she's still making time to kick it. She'd be like, oh, I got a babysitter, so I'm going to just bring my baby. Is that okay? And we're like, bring her on. So I do want to just share love for the married couples who do, still carve out that time, and the ones who share. And so I just wanted to say this because I had made a post recently about single women honoring marriages and not soliciting the attention of married men. So I'll say this. I would really encourage single women to develop an intentional habit to show yourself trustworthy to married people.
Amen.
And it's not something that's going to happen by accident. You have to be very intentional about it. And it's hard, because sometimes some women are just going to be mad at you just because you're cute, and you can't do nothing to prove yourself trustworthy to a person like that. You just got to stay away. You can't. I'm not uncuting for you, boo. But I will say, like, in your conduct, and I don't like to use examples where I'm the example all the time, but just as an example. Years ago, my friend who was married invited me to her house to go swimming, and she pulled me to the side after, and she was just like, Alicia, I cannot just thank you enough for how you conducted yourself at my house, what you having a swimsuit on, because she saw that I put on, I chose to put on like a little wrap thing around me, like on the bottom. It was kind of sheer. It was still cute, but it was like a little wrap, because I didn't want to be walking around her husband in like a little something skimpy. And then, but what she specifically commented on was like I had bent over and I put my hand over my chest, and just so that it wouldn't be like cleavage when I bent over. And she was like, I was inside the house and I saw you do that, and I was like, that is a woman I can trust. And I can tell you that she has been one of the married people. I have like a little team of them, but when stuff goes down, she'll give me nuggets. I don't think married people always have to give you the ins and outs, like this is what he said last night. I wouldn't want those kind of married women in my circle anyway, because that's not a good example to set. You got to protect your man, right. But they'll give you the lessons that they learned. Yeah. So, but I do think, so I guess my point is for single women, though, you have to be trustworthy to earn that kind of relationship where a wife is willing to go there with you, because if she thinks you might take that information and use it against her marriage, she's not going to want to. She's going to view you as a threat or a competition. So that's all.
That's good.
Drop
no,
like.
That's good. Same, definitely. I have friends that, they're married, and I'm friends with both the wife and the husband. But you best believe if the wife is leaving the house, if she's making me dinner too, and she's going out to get groceries or she forgot, I'm rolling with you. I'm not going to stay in the house with your husband. I'm not, no. So, yeah, I definitely agree. I personally make a conscious effort. Plus, I don't want that back.
Right. You reap what you sow.
Actually, my cousin said that to me a long time ago when one of my friends got married, one of my best friends, and we used to have sleepovers all the time when she was single, and it was, normal. And when she got married, she's like, oh, just come spend the night. And one of my cousin actually said, she's like, when a woman gets married, you don't stay over her house no more. This is not college anymore. You need to, you go home, you stay at your house. You let them stay in their marriage home, and you go home, if it's going to be late and you need to make plans so that you don't stay out late. That you don't do that when people are married. So that's so true.
So I know that we kind of went through, we didn't even have time to get to sorry, I thought Denise was motioning to me. But we didn't even really get to we had some comments on social media, but we can keep the conversation. Was there a really good one? Did you want to share it, Aniyah?
Well,
you guys can go if you want to continue with the comments. I'm fine.
Oh, thank you, lady.
You're welcome.
Well, Lorinda shared that she's had married people say that you have an extra glow to you, which means you must be dating at the time, and she kind of found that to be it seems a little offensive. Like, can she just enjoy her life? Can she be happy? And there are different degrees of glow from singleness. So she feels like, I guess, married people shouldn't, force or push the fact that, they must be married or they must be in a relationship and on her way to marriage. And, she's happy with herself and she's okay instead of having to be, with someone. And then Gloria shared a couple of nuggets. She said, marriage is great, but there's give and take. You have to understand and appreciate differences, and maybe, work is not the word to use. I think that goes along with my comment. I think that it's definitely, there are definitely times when you need to learn to be okay with your differences and not call it work, but learn to, agree to disagree or choose to, come to some sort of conclusion together instead of just, well, fine, I hate you, let's get a divorce or something. You know what I mean? Like,
compromise.
Yes, exactly. And then she finally also said she loved being single and she loves being married now. Both have challenges and both have awesomeness. So thank you for that, Gloria, and thank you for that, Lorinda.
I like what Lorinda said, like if you're happy, you must be in a relationship. Because I think it's important for married people to celebrate the other noteworthy things going on in a person's life. Like, marriage can't be the only thing. Like, it's almost like when people get together for a reunion or something like that, and it's like, well, are you in a relationship or are you married? And if you're not, it's like, oh, okay, next person. It's like, hey, well, I also traveled. I also got my master's degree. Where can I get a, hand clap for that?
That's like the first thing at a family reunion.
Yeah.
Oh, are you married now?
Yes.
Do you have any kids? No?
Oh, that's stressful.
Where's your mom? You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's like my big fat Greek wedding when he's like, you better get married.
Yeah, exactly. At 13.
My grandma used to come with, you're putting on weight. Like,
oh my God.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Just celebrate the other things.
Yeah.
There's so many more reasons to be happy. Yeah. And Gloria's feedback about the balance of work and pleasure. That's very important. I feel like I hear a lot of married people say that. I hear a lot of married people use the word roller coaster or like a cycle. Like it goes in seasons. Like you have seasons where you're really in love and you have seasons where it's like you're not feeling it as much and you got to like work through it and then it comes back. And then it goes.
And that whole decision comes into play. Like I made a decision to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave.
Aniyah's face. You don't want that. You don't
no.
want the cycle.
That is not great America.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see when I cross that bridge.
Right. That's right.
Yes.
I think that was it. That was all the social media comments.
Yes.
But if people still have comments after the show, feel free to post them. We can keep the conversation going after the fact. That is totally cool. So we usually leave with a challenge. So I guess the challenge is two-part this time. So for the married people, this take this as a learning experience. This is like, like when you have, diversity training at work or something, this is your diversity training for the singles in your community, Do you say any of these things? Aniyah's over here laughing at me. I love her. Okay. But do you say any of these things? And, if so, consider how you might rephrase them based on what you learned today in this conversation.
Yes, please.
And don't desert your single friends.
Yes.
Amen to that. We get that it's, you got a lot going on.
We miss you.
Yes. Your single friends miss you. And for the single people, I hope that this conversation, just helps you know that you're not alone if you hear these things and you get frustrated, because we hear these things and we get frustrated, so we understand. But also, like I said, consider making an intentional effort to be trustworthy to married people so that you're in a position to learn, because they truly do have a wealth of experience that we should learn from. The Bible says in Titus, I think it's chapter 2, that the married women should teach, or maybe that's in Timothy, and I think it's repeated in Titus. But for the married women to teach the younger women, so you want to make yourself trustworthy so that you can learn and grow as a future wife yourself, or a future contented single person.
Or a single wife,
Or wife. So that is it. Thank you so much, SuiteLady, for having us.
You're very welcome. I so enjoyed the conversation. So same time, same place next month.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.